Hello everyone, this is Jessica Kelly from the Estevan Public Library, and for today's A to Z Real Food series, we are making Baozi. This is a steamed yeast bun that is filled with either sweet or savory fillings. This dish originates from China, and for today's recipe, we are using pork and vegetables filling. For this recipe, you will need flour, neutral oil like olive oil, baking powder, sugar, yeast, and water for the dough, and for the filling, ground pork, cabbage, carrots, ginger, garlic, soy sauce, sesame seed oil, and rice wine or sherry for the filling. Let's get started. First, we'll start by making the dough. In 1 cup of warm water, sprinkle over 1 packet or 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast. Let that sit for 10 minutes until frothy. Next, in a large bowl, measure out 4 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Mix everything together and create a small divot in the center of your dry ingredients. After 10 minutes, your yeast and water should be frothy like this. Take the mixture and add it into your dry ingredients and start to combine. As you mix your dough together, add 1 tablespoon of oil. Keep mixing until the dough starts sticking to itself. If you find that it's still flaky, you can add a bit of water, 1/4 cup at a time. Once everything is mixed together well, it's time to start kneading. Knead your dough for 7 to 10 minutes. I started kneading inside the bowl to get the last bits of flour. Once the dough was sticking together well, I moved the dough onto the table to finish kneading it. To knead the dough, I fold it over and push down. I rotate it often to make sure it's evenly kneaded on all sides. After 10 minutes of kneading, place your dough inside a lightly oiled bowl and cover it with a damp tea towel or plastic wrap. Let it sit for an hour or until doubled in size. As we wait for the dough to rise, we'll start prepping our ingredients for the filling. Chop a 1/2 cup of green cabbage, 1/4 cup of chopped carrot, 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped ginger, and 2 cloves of minced garlic. For this recipe, I'm going to pre-cook my filling. To start, add a little bit of oil to a frying pan and add your ginger and garlic. Cook until fragrant. Next, add your cabbage, and your carrots, and 1/2 pound of ground pork. Then, add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, two tablespoons of sesame seed oil, and 1 tablespoon of rice wine or sherry. Mix everything together and cook until the pork has just turned brown. Once it's finished, take it off the heat and let it cool. While your filling is cooling, take some parchment paper and cut it into 16 squares. You'll want the squares to be at least 3 inches by 3 inches. The parchment paper will help transport them, as well as help prevent the Baozi from sticking to the steamer as they cook. After an hour, your dough should have doubled in size. Start by punching down your dough and remove it from the bowl. Then, on a lightly floured surface, start rolling out your dough into a foot-long cylinder. Once your dough is about a foot long, grab a sharp knife and cut it in half. Set one of the halves to the side for now. Grab the other half and cut that in half. Taking one of the quarters of dough, cut that in half as well. Cut both of those pieces in half. Then, cut the other half of the quarter in half as well. Grab the quarter piece and cut that in half, and cut both of those halves in half again. Repeat this process for the first half of the dough as well. When you're finished, you should have 16 pieces of dough. To flatten the dough, grab a piece of the dough and flatten it out into a circle with your hand. Next, grab a rolling pin, preferably a much smaller one than I'm using, and roll out your dough into a wide circle about the size of your palm. Then, flatten the edges as much as you can by rolling out the dough starting from the center and working your way to the edges. Keep moving the dough into a circle so that all the edges are evenly flat. The goal is to keep the center thick to hold the filling, while the edges are thin to help shape the bun later. Once the dough is about the size of your hand, set that aside and start with the next one. Repeat this process for all the pieces of dough until they are all flattened into circles. To fill the buns, grab one of the flat pieces of dough and scoop in about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of filling. Then wet your finger in a little bit of water and run it around the edge of the dough. This will help stick the dough together when we're pleating it. To shape your bun, take 2 small pieces and bring them together by folding them. Keep folding small pieces of dough together to create a pleat. Keep your thumb in the center of the dough to create both a steam hole and to keep the filling in one place. Once all the dough has been brought together, give the top a little bit of a twist to keep it secure. Then grab a piece of parchment paper and place your bun on top of it. When you finish, set it aside and start again with another piece of flat dough. Add about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of filling, wet the edges with a little bit of water, and pleat it together to create the bun shape. Once you're finished filling all the Baozi, cover them with plastic wrap or a damp tea towel and let them rise again for another 30 minutes. To steam the Baozi, you can use a large frying pan, some water, and bamboo steamers. However, I'm going to use a metal steamer and a large pot, since that's all I have. For this method, Add an inch or two of water to your pot and place your metal steamer inside. Next, add your Baozi. Make sure to leave enough space for your Baozi to expand, as they will get bigger in the steamer. Once your steamer basket is full, cover it with a lid and turn on the element to bring the water to a simmer. Let it steam for 15 to 18 minutes. After 15 minutes of steaming, remove the lid and remove the pot off the hot element. Let the Baozi cool just enough so you don't burn yourself when you move them. Remove the Baozi with a small spatula, fork, or the edges of the parchment paper onto a plate. Repeat this process with the rest of your Baozi. When you're finished, you can eat them right away, or you can keep them in the fridge for a few days and microwave them at 45 seconds. You can eat them plain or with some sauces. Thank you for joining me for this A to Z World Foods video. This recipe took about 2.5 hours to make and serves about 16. You can find the written recipe in the video description below. I hope you enjoyed this and can join us for our next A to Z World Foods video.